Imagine applying a critical patch, believing the emergency is over, and then receiving an extortion email weeks later. The uncomfortable question is no longer only, are we patched? It is, what happened before the patch arrived? The reported Clop campaign against PTC Windchill and FlexPLM puts that long tail in focus. In this safe CipherVibe local lab, we will map the investigation path without touching a live system or recreating an exploit. By the end, you will have a practical way to think about the long tail of a mass exploitation event. We will separate vulnerability remediation from compromise assessment, use a fictional application timeline, identify the evidence that changes decisions, and turn a confusing alert into an owner-led response plan. This is defensive education only, fictional records, local diagrams, and simulated decisions. Cyberscoop reports that PTC disclosed CV 2026-12569 on June 17 and issued a patch plus initial indicators the next day. Reporting linked the suspected campaign to possible exploitation in early June, before that disclosure. CISA added the vulnerability to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog on June 25. Then alleged victims began receiving threatening emails in mid-July. The exact dates matter because patch completion does not erase the earlier exposure window. The risk is not a technical score in isolation. Product lifecycle systems can sit near product designs, supplier data, manufacturing processes, and high-value identities. In the reporting, researchers described a custom web shell built for the affected product line and designed to support credential theft and data theft. Defenders should avoid filling gaps with assumptions. The operational point is simpler. A patch may close a door, while an incident review determines whether someone passed through it earlier. Our lab contains a made-up product lifecycle server called PLM, Demo 07, a synthetic supplier archive, a mock identity directory, and a local event timeline. It is not Windchill or FlexPLM. Nothing is scanned, probed, executed, or sent outside this workstation. The goal is to rehearse the defender's reasoning, identify exposure, preserve records, scope impact, and choose safe, authorized actions. Here is the defensive map. Start with the exposure window and the application's patch state. Then review authorized telemetry for unusual application activity, identity use, and access to sensitive collections. Next, determine which teams own the affected data, contracts, and notification decisions. This is deliberately a decision diagram, not an attack recipe. The work is to test hypotheses with evidence and record what each finding changes. In Cedar Forge, a fictional indicator matches an application event during the exposure window. The correct response is not to declare a breach from one line of telemetry. The lab opens a case, preserves the original record, compares it with identity and data access events, and records what is still unknown. That distinction matters. A useful incident process makes uncertainty visible instead of hiding it behind a green patch complete status. The safe response is an owner-led sequence. Preserve relevant records before normal retention removes them. Validate that the vendor-supported remediation is applied and that the exposure path is no longer reachable. Use approved incident procedures to review potentially affected identities and access. If containment actions are needed, make them specific, reversible where possible, and coordinated with operations. Do not rush into broad changes that destroy evidence or interrupt critical production without a plan. This is why the long tail can outlast the patch window. Security may be validating logs while data owners classify records, legal reviews obligations, procurement checks supplier commitments, and leadership decides how to communicate. A single evidence timeline helps each group work from the same facts. The aim is neither panic nor premature reassurance. It is a defensible answer to what was exposed, what was verified, and what happens next. Before calling the event resolved, ask 4 questions. Was the affected product present and exposed during the reported window? What preserved evidence supports or limits a compromise assessment? Which owners are accountable for the potentially affected data and decisions? And what monitoring, communication, or follow-up remains? A patch ticket can close quickly. An incident should close only when those questions have an evidence-backed answer. Choose one internet-facing business application and run a tabletop version of this drill. Create a fictional exposure date, a patch date, a simulated indicator, and a decision log. Test whether the right people can preserve evidence, identify data owners, and make an approved containment decision without confusion. CipherVibe helps teams turn headlines into safe, evidence-driven learning. Patch the flaw, investigate the window, and prove the closure.